Good morning, everybody. It's a long time since I stood up and did this. It was about, you'd remember, Nikki, 1999, somewhere about then. And so that's a long time. But Catherine and I met with Rod and Sue one day, and about 6 weeks ago, I suppose. During the course of the conversation, I asked, well, who's going to be preaching while you're away? And she said, we want you to do one. I said, what? She said, I want you to do one. And I said, do you think I'm ready to do that? She said, we do, don't we, Rod? And Rod agreed. And I said, oh, well, I'll have to think about that. A couple of minutes later, she said, well, are you going to? And it was like as if she put a boxing glove on and hit me right there. So I had to say, yes. It was like I was getting grilled and I had to say yes. Because if I said no, I don't know what would have happened. But I want to read an extract from a book written by a guy called Napoleon Hill. Anybody ever heard of Napoleon Hill? He wrote Think and Grow Rich. A great book. A world book, but a good book. He said, education consists not so much of knowledge, but of knowledge effectively and persistently applied. People are paid not merely for what they know, but more particularly for what they do with what they know. I thought that was a very good word. And the other one I want to bring to you is, anybody read that book? Anthony Robbins. He was a guy that was living in a flat somewhere in the United States, single, and the flat had one room, a bath, and a bed, and that was about it. Didn't even have a sink to wash his dishes in. Had to wash them in the bath. But he was listening to a song by Neil Diamond called I Said I Am, I Said. And he looked at himself in the mirror and he said, I am living here because I said it's all right. But it's not. So he went out and he started to learn about motivational speaking and learning about, well, the book's called Awaken the Giant Within, from speaking to people to wake themselves up like he had. So he got going and he was touring Russia. And he had a map in his hand and he wrote down what he wanted to have over the next whatever years, I can't remember what it was. But one of them was a house by the sea, big house, 3 children and a blonde-headed wife. And many years later, he was in his study and he was cleaning it out and he found this map. And he thought, that's the map, yeah. So he flicked it over and he found what he had written down. And he looked around and he had everything that was on that map. So he got to know about a lady that started up a preparatory school somewhere in the States, and he asked her, could he go and interview her? She agreed, and after the interview, he said, would it be okay for me to go outside and listen and interview one of the children, talk to one of the children? Now, these children are not 5 years old. And she said, by all means. So he went outside and he picked up on this little boy sitting on the steps and he said, hi, I'm Tony Robbins. Hello, Mr. Robbins. My name is Talmadge E. Griffin. I am 4 years old. What would you like to know? Well, Talmadge, tell me, what are you studying these days? I'm studying a lot of things, Mr. Robbins. Well, what books have you read recently? I just finished reading Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Now, that's an adult book. Needless to say, I was pretty impressed. I asked him what the book was about, figuring he'd say something like it was about 2 guys named George and Lenny. He said, well, the main protagonist is. By this time, I was a believer. Then I asked him what he had learned from the book. Mr. Robbins, I more than learned from this book. This book permeated my soul. Remember, this is a 4-year-old child. I started to laugh and asked, "What does permeate mean?" "To diffuse through," he said, then gave me a fuller definition than I could give you. "What touched you so much in this book, Talmarge?" "Mr. Robbins, I noticed in the story that the children never judge anyone else by the colour of their skin. Only the adults did that. What I learned from this is that although I will someday be an adult, I'll never forget the lessons of a child." Now that was a 4-year-old boy. That I call remarkable. That is knowledge. She threw out all the Janet and John books and brought in all these other books. Got crucified sort of thing for it, but that's the result of one of those children. Amazing, eh? Let's lift up our Bibles. Have you all got one? I'm not ready yet. Let's say, "I am more than a conqueror in Christ Jesus.
I am more than a conqueror in Christ Jesus.
I am the seed of Abraham.
I am the seed of Abraham.
I am victorious in Christ.
I am victorious in Christ.
I have the wisdom of God."
I have the wisdom of God.
Shout amen.
Amen.
Now, my talk is going to be on wisdom. But over the last many years, I felt like a Jew walking around the mountain, going nowhere. I guess I could only be the only one here that's ever been like that. Am I right? I want to tell you what happened to Catherine and I about 6 years ago. Some of you have heard this before, so please bear with me. We were living in Katikati, and we had a bigger house to have Catherine's mum with us. Catherine's mum eventually went home to be with the Lord. So we decided we'd sell the house, and this was early in that year, about March. And my daughter-in-law was studying photography. So I wanted to get her over from Hamilton to here to Katikati to take these photos so we could put it on Trade Me. We wanted to sell the house ourselves. But Catherine wasn't too happy about that, but it didn't work out. No matter what we did, times didn't work out. So I'm thinking now, what can I do now? So one day Catherine came to me and she said, "We have to sojourn here." I said, "What?" I said, "You're the one that wants to leave Katikati," well, both of us did, but I said, "You really want to get back to Tauranga?" And I said, "And you're telling me we've got to stay here?" She said, "Yes." I don't get this. But anyway, I agreed. Like a beautiful husband, I agreed. And then I think it was about September, Catherine came to me and she said, "We can put the house on the market now." I said, "Oh, okay." So we went about getting the house on the market. Our first open day, we had nobody. And we said, "We need an English couple coming from England to live in New Zealand to buy this house." So we agreed, and we prayed about it. The second Sunday, we had 2 or 3 coming before it was just about time to get out there and pick up all the signs. All of a sudden, a young couple with 2 children walk up the drive. Catherine opens the door and spoke to the person, "Hello, English." So we invited them in and had a look around, and Catherine said, "Where did you see this for sale?" "Oh, back in England." So we got talking, and about the March that we wanted to sell the house, these people had come from England to look around New Zealand, but preferably in the Bay of Plenty, to see where they wanted to live. And they chose Katikati. That's where they want to live. But they had to go back to England and fix up all their affairs in England, sell their house or whatever, and get back here. So that was the reason we couldn't put the house on in March. because those people had to go back to England. So when they arrived back here, Catherine said to them, "How long have you been here?" "Oh, about a week." "Oh." And the wife said, "We were saying all the way through, we hope that house in New Zealand hasn't sold, hope that hasn't sold." So we thought, well, we've got to sail, which did happen. But the time frame from March to September was, God knew that was going to happen. God knew that we couldn't go about selling that house until then. And it all worked out. 3 weeks after they came, we had a sale. So that's what happened. And that really made me excited. But if I'd have wanted to go first headlong into it, I would have been like a bull at a gate. Man knows everything. Let's do it. But we didn't. And that really got me thinking about the wisdom of God. So I thought, I'm going to find out all about, as much as I can, about wisdom. Let's turn to Proverbs chapter 1, verse 2. Proverbs is full of wisdom, as you know. To know wisdom and instruction, and to perceive the words of understanding. That's what that little boy Talmadge E. Griffin in that book was doing. He knew. He observed it, he perceived it, and he got the understanding at 4 years old. Well, if he can do it at 4, I can do it at 73. And we all can. But we've got to get and read and know what we're reading. My small mind would realise he really means for me to know instruction. I've never been one for receiving instruction. I used to think I knew everything. When we were on the farm, my father would tell me to do it this way. I'd say, "No, I'm going to do it my way. I know better than you." And I've been like that for a lot of time. And I asked the Lord one day, I said, "Why am I having difficulty receiving instruction?" He said, "I want you to think about your days in the army." I said, "Why? Well, what's that got to do with it?" He said, "You were standing there getting instruction, left, right, left, turn, right, turn. You've got 2 right feet, you've got 2 left arms and all that sort of thing." And he said, it really made you hate instruction. And it did. And I'm like that today. I don't like being fussed or inspected, or I don't like it, because I had that all in my army days. And what am I doing this for, I used to say. Verse 5. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. Wise counsels. Listening to people that have got more wisdom than I have. Listening and taking it in and believing what they're saying is right. And some of the people out there are so wise. Rod and Sue, so wise. And we are in a good gathering, we're in a good church, we're getting wise teaching. You agree? Verse 22. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity, and the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge? Well, I guess that's something we have to ask for ourselves. How long are we going to stop and not grab hold of this wisdom message? It's a must. Psalm 23 says, "I am the Lord, your shepherd, and you shall not want." Jesse Duplantis' wife said one day, she said, "But Jesse, he supplies all our needs." "I know," he said, "I've got all my needs. It's my wants I want." And the Lord will supply your want. Verse 29 to 33. Sorry, where am I? Where am I? Oh, yeah. For that they hate knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. What is the fear of the Lord? It's not, I'm frightened, I'm scared, he's going to bong me on the head. No, it's the getting in of this word into you, his word. Know only him. They would none of my counsels, they despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their devices. You know, all around the world, that's exactly what's happening, isn't it? They're filled with their own way and I'm right, and these G20 meetings that they have and achieve nothing, these United Nations meetings that they have nothing. They achieve nothing because they won't, because they don't seek the Lord and his wisdom. 32, for the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the property of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkens unto me shall dwell safely and shall be quiet from fear of evil. Well, I want all that. Do you? You know, we're living, I reckon we're living below God's standards. And I'm not pointing at anybody, but I believe that we're not living in, like John said and Dan says, we're not living in that abundance that he's got for us. And I believe it's because of the wisdom that escapes us at times. For me anyway, the wisdom and understanding of him. And we shouldn't be. Everybody here should have fat checkbooks and fat wallets. And not wanting for anything, but giving everything. That's how we're supposed to operate. And I don't believe we're doing it. I know I'm not there yet. I'm not speaking for myself, I don't think. Chapter 4, verse 1. Hear, ye children, the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding. He wants this ear of yours. Listen. Don't switch off. Our lives should be 24/7 in him. And I know when I'm working out in the garden or something, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm not thinking of him. But I know when I start thinking of him, trusting and believing in him, the work gets a little easier. And that's natural, because he's with you. And he's always saying, talk to me. Talk to me. Verse 4. He taught me also and said unto me, let your heart retain, keep, retain and keep my words, keep my commandments and live. Verse 5, get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Okay, that's a command. It's not I suggest you get wisdom and I think you should get understanding and probably don't forget it. No, it's pretty precise. Get it. It's how much time we spend in the Word, isn't it? It's how much time we spend with him. Digest the Word. I want to get ahead a bit of myself here. Let's turn over to 2 Chronicles. It's after 1 Chronicles, obviously, and after Kings. We all know that Solomon was the richest man that ever lived and ever will be. says here in verse 7. Thank you. In that night did God appear unto Solomon and said unto him, Ask what I shall give you. And Solomon said unto God, You have showed great mercy unto David my father, and have made me to reign in his stead. Now, O Lord God, let your promise unto David my father be established. For you have made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in multitude. Give me now wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before the people. For who can judge this, thy people that is so great? And God said to Solomon, Because this was in thy heart, and thou hast not asked riches, wealth, or honour. Now here's something that I'm getting to. Nor the life of thine enemies, neither yet have you asked for long life. Solomon died a young man. He died way before his time. Because he asked for wisdom, and he got that, and God gave him riches and honour, but he forgot about asking for long life. Now over in 3, I think it is, just let me think about that. I think it's Proverbs 3, or no. I'll have to work on that one. Anyway, over in Proverbs, and I'll get it later, but he said, riches and honour are in her left hand, and long life is in the right hand. Now, we know that Jesus is seated at the right hand of the Father. So he is long life. He's everything. But Solomon died because he did not ask for it. As a matter of fact, and the Queen of Sheba actually, and this is how the world should see us. The Queen of Sheba arrived with boatloads of gold and algum trees, wasn't it? Algum. I've never heard of them since. I don't know if they still exist. But she wanted to know this Solomon. He never invited her to come, but she came with wealth. That's how we should be. The world should be using us for their wealth, not us using them for their wealth. Verse 8 of chapter 4. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honour when thou dost embrace her. She shall give to your head ornaments of grace, a crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. Hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of your life shall be many. Honour. I've only had, I think, that I could count on one hand, one person, apart from my wife, that I really honoured. And he was an RSM in the army. A Maori man, one of the most beautiful men I've ever met. And I honoured that man. And every time I see him now, we embrace one another, and we just hold one another because I honoured him. And he just got, every time he sees me, he says, it's just lovely to see you. And that was the only person that I could really put up there and say, I honour in the natural world. Verse 8. Now, I wanted to point out something here. She shall give to our head an ornament. Why she? Why does it say she? Is wisdom she? And why? I haven't got an answer, but this hurts me to say this, guys. This really hurts me. But when an antenna of a woman goes up like that, and she says, we're not doing it that way, take a step back, guys, and say, I agree. Because woman, I've seen a particular woman, and she'd come to me and say, I don't trust that man. Oh, he's a nice guy. I don't think so. So I say, you're right. Because wisdom is she. But does that hurt to receive that, fellas? I tell you, it does. But it's the truth. Most women, when you feel that antenna or see that sort of look, you know she's got those things up here and you know she's switched on. And I really believe, take a step back, guys. I mean, he didn't call her she for nothing. I mean, look at that and what happened to us in Caddy. I could have gone ahead and say, no, I'm not going to wait. But it would have all turned to custard. So I knew when that antenna went up and she said, I got a sojourn, or we've got a sojourn, okay. Because I knew she was correct. I didn't like it, but I had to. Okay, Isaiah 55 verse 8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. I always thought that, and had been taught that, you'll never get up there. You'll never be able to have his thoughts. You'll never have his ways. He's greater. Yeah, I know he's greater. But he wants us to know his ways. He wants us to know his thoughts. When you get a dream at night, he may be telling you what to do. Or us. When I say you, I mean me, include me. And we've got to be switched on to that. If you've had a dream and it's so clear as crystal while you're doing, I haven't, but I should start. Write it down. He might be telling you to do the most craziest thing, and you think, that is so stupid, but it's a wise one. It's wise what he's telling you. Listen. How am I going for time? Seems like ages up here. I want to read. I was listening to Bill Winston, and he was talking about the opening of his church, and the council said about 2 or 3 days before he was to have his first sermon in there on a Sunday night, they rang up and they said, you can't have your service. We're not allowing it to happen. And he said, but it's all, I've booked it, it's all on. He said, no. So he said to his wife and his family that evening, he said, I'm going to bed early, and I'm going to get up in the morning, and I'm going to have a conference with the Lord, and I'm going to find out what I can do about this problem that we're in. So he said, he got up in the morning and he was talking to the Lord, and the Lord said to him, I want you to go back to the council and I want you to read chapter 13 of Romans from 1 to 8. And here it is. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resists the power resists the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Wilt thou then be afraid? And so on. So he read, the guy, he went up to the person that met him at the council, and he said, I want to see the mayor. Well, we can't see the mayor. I want to see the mayor, and I've got a right. So he said, oh, what's it about? He said, and he told him, and he said, you got a Bible? And he said, yes. And he said, I want to read something out of the Bible to him. So he said, all right. So he arranged for Bill Winston to go in and have this conference with the mayor. And he sat down and he said to the mayor, and he read that. He said, whoa, I don't know about this. He said, I'll have to meet with the team. And he said, see what can be done about that. And he said, Bill Winston said, well, I'll wait. So he went away and he came back and he said, Mr. Winston, we've agreed to let you have your service on Sunday night. Now what it was this council, because there was very little shops in the mall that when he first opened, they'd all closed down. And they thought, this guy is going to get all the revenue when he starts and we're not going to get anything. But what happened was, when Bill Winston went into that mall, everything exploded. Shops opened up, people came in, and the council were wealthy, got the revenue from it because they allowed him to have his church. And they were going to close him down. So it just shows you that I probably would have said, what's this all about? How's that going to work? But Bill Winston, he got in and he had that meeting with the Lord, and the Lord told him what to do, and he did it. Be a doer of the word. That's what he did. And he got what he wanted. It was all because of listening. Incline your ear to my sayings. Let them not depart from your mouth. So I thought, wow, why can't I get that? And he also had about a lady. She owed a finance company $32,000, but she had no money. And the Lord said to her, ring up, call the council, call the finance company and tell them that you will pay them $1,000. So she rang the finance company and she said, I'll pay $1,000 and that's the end of the loan. I won't be able to pay any more. The guy said, I'll have to go and see the manager about this. So he went out and see the manager. He came back and he said, ma'am, we've agreed to wipe your loan. You don't even have to pay $1,000. Listening to God. Might have seen, you know, when you think about it, you owe $32,000 as a person, even me, and you say, oh, the Lord says, ring them up and offer them $1,000. They won't accept that. But he got away with it. It worked. Another lady owed $2,000. And the Lord said, offer them $1,000. I think it was it $1,000? And she rang up and they said, oh, we got a special. She said, what? What's the special? Pay 10% and that's the end of the loan. Now, you don't get those things in finance companies. See how it works? Listen. Probably I would have thought, again, oh, that's a bit way out, but they read. Now, there's a guy, a long time ago, he's gone now, he's in heaven, and his name is George Washington Carver. You can Google him. Anybody heard of him? Googled him? Amazing man. I've got 7 minutes. Actually, a very amazing man. And the group in the town that he lived were having a ways and means meeting. And they wanted George Carver to speak, but they'd only give him 15 minutes. Because, I don't know why, but anyway, he got up and he spoke. And they stopped him and they said, Mr. Carver, yes, continue speaking. An hour and a half later, he finished, And one of the guys stood up and he said, Mr. Carver, you were talking about peanuts. And he said, there's nothing in the Bible about peanuts. And Mr. Carver said, no, that's correct, sir. But I know the man that made the peanut. And it was amazing what that man made. And I think he was in, was it lots, he had lots of inventions and medicines and things like that, didn't he? I can't remember what it was. But he made so many things out of one peanut. He was one of, and we read him, when you Google him on to Google, you just can't take your eyes and stop reading what he actually did. Amazing man. Well, I'm about wrapped up. But in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 13 to 18. Proverbs 3. Happy is the man that finds wisdom, and the man that gets understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. So that puts it way up there, doesn't it? She is more precious than rubies, and all the things that thou can desire are not to be compared unto her. This is it. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honour. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retains her. I want to be like that. That just about sums life up to me. You get that. I believe we get that. Retain it. Do what it says. And your life changes. I believe wisdom is the principal thing. Principle means, look at the principal of a college. The highest authority. And all it is there, those words there, her, she. I don't know if anybody ever read a book called The Shack. Now the last operation that guy, it was only a story, but the last thing that guy had to do was row across a lake, I think it was, go into a cave, and he met there a woman. And the woman's name was Wisdom. I don't like it, fellas, but it's true. Listen to your wife. Okay, thank you very much. I'm all done.